The World Health Organization and the Food and Agriculture Organization, the two organizations that run Codex Alimentarius for the United Nations, those two organizations put out a special report called The Role of Nutrition in the Prevention of Chronic Disease. And they said that the diseases of undernutrition, the chronic degenerative preventable, let me repeat that, preventable diseases of undernutrition are cancer, cardiovascular disease, stroke, diabetes, and obesity, the 5 major killers, and the 5 most profitable conditions for the pharmaceutical and illness care industry.
You know, it's we have to slide into a break here, another hour to go. It's so sad. I'm a vegan. I take very good care with what I put into my body, have for a long time, and I don't get sick. And when you see young people who have not been vaccinated, they rarely get sick. Their friends are getting sick all the time.
Correct.
All of these things, as you've said, are so relevant and so crucial for those who want to understand, to grasp, and somehow be able to wrap their minds around. We are being attacked, ladies and gentlemen, from dozens of different angles and perspectives. It's a non-stop assault.
Here's an audio clip posted on YouTube by The Answers of NWO3. Here, the host says shots, but the truth of the matter is we don't know if these servicemen got shots or the mist. What is interesting, and ties in with what Dr. LeBeau was saying, is the mention of the 4-day IV, which is in fact the treatment for the bird flu, as well as the 21-day waiting period, which is the time the virus is live and contagious within the flu mist.
You know, one of the things that just dawned on me, we've never heard back from the young lady whose husband was on the ship that was quarantined after it left San Diego. And I'm curious to see if she's had any further input from her spouse.
Says, Drew, Jane tells me that her husband's ship is due in port tomorrow. She's been advised that 2 soldiers had died at sea due to the flu. They're still under a semi-quarantine, but there are 16 doctors on board that were shipped out to sea, and the ship is due to arrive in San Diego between 1100 hours tomorrow and 1600 hours tomorrow afternoon. I will be able to give you a better report then. Jane tells me her husband was one of the inflicted. He had temperatures of 104 and 105 degrees for 6 days. Unable to take fluid, and he was under an IV for 4 days after he was just laid in the infirmary for a day and a half. Medical teams came in from 2 aircraft carriers, and the ship was basically under guard for 21 days. The ship has now been being brought back to port under a new commanding officer, as one of the dead men is the commanding officer.
Oh my God! You know, it doesn't get any worse. And here they quarantined them because they gave them shots, right?
Yes, sir. She says that most of the information that I just gave you is semi-classified. However, they can't hide the death of a lieutenant commander who is the captain of this vessel, and they can't hide the death of a Master Chief Petty Officer. She comes back in and she says, we really appreciate the news getting out, especially from your newsletter and what Drew is doing. It's like, here we are, nobody knows what the truth is. We've got too many secrets, and nobody wants to know what the real truth is. The military is being treated like guinea pigs.
Absolutely. It's tragic. And this is not the first time it's gone on, over and over and over again.
Oh, you've got to be kidding. She comes back in and she says there are 3 other ships that are now being leaked out as being infected, but we don't have any other information other than there are 3 ships at sea that are under semi-quarantine observation.
Well, what they must have done, and I'm only guessing, is that they were using live swine flu shots to see what kind of effect it would be on those who were the guinea pigs with the live ones.
If you found that disturbing or unbelievable, listen to this segment from Project Camelot with Jane Burgermeister, posted by 9/11/77info. The full interview can be heard at Jane's blog at birdflu666.wordpress.com.
Okay, Jane briefly is an Austrian journalist. She filed criminal charges against the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and several high-ranking government and corporate officials concerning what she is considering bioterrorism. And she filed the charges with the FBI, and I guess she was also fired from her job as a European correspondent to the Renewable Energy World website, it looks like. So, Jane, maybe you can take it from there.
Yes, can I just say I'm actually an Irish national. I have an Irish passport. My mother was Irish, so
oh, wonderful.
I just wanted to make that clear. But my dad is Austrian, and I live in Austria. Yes, if I can just wind back a little bit to what Bill was saying, he spotlighted, or threw the spotlight on the issue of the intent behind these vaccinations. And this is really the focus of my various criminal charges, and they started in April in Austria. I filed charges at the state prosecutor here in Vienna, and the police are investigating Baxter because Baxter was involved in activities that clearly showed a criminal intent. They were caught contaminating 72 kilos of vaccine material, this live bird flu virus, a virus that was incidentally supplied by WHO, and then distributing it with a false label to 16 laboratories in 4 countries. And if it had not been caught by a lab technician in the Czech Republic, it would have sparked a pandemic. So the criminal intent of Baxter is, I think, quite clearly established by the facts, indeed, in the public domain. All I did was put them together. And that is why I think people are rightly concerned about this whole move by companies like Baxter, who have a huge influence on WHO and the World Health Organization, to force all entire populations around the world to take these very vaccinations. And in advance, they have given themselves sort of immunity and all kinds of measures that mean that they will not really be responsible for the damage that they cause to people. And this is also a reason why people are concerned. If they were acting in good faith, you would think that they would have not gone to the trouble of removing these clauses that make them liable for damages and so on. But they have. If you look at the legal setup, these sort of protections have been hollowed out. And incidentally, WHO is in a position to acquire more or less control of all the national governments in the event of a pandemic being declared. So the big winners are WHO and Baxter and the other vaccine companies. And it was exactly this pair, WHO and Baxter, who were involved in Austria in nearly triggering a terrible pandemic in February. And this can be proven, and that's why the police are investigating. So I think people are very, very rightly concerned about whether this isn't, in fact, a big criminal enterprise at work, being covered by the mainstream media, the corporate media, who is in the control of the same people who control the vaccine companies and who fund WHO.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a great summary, Jane. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you got involved in this whole story.
Well, it was just one of those, you were talking about the coincidences of the universe. But basically, Baxter, when it sent out this contaminated material, it sent it to a laboratory in the district in Vienna where I actually live. And in the local paper, there was a report about it because it wasn't reported in the mainstream media at all. There was almost total silence. But in the local paper, there's a little bit of a snippet about how the people who were working for that laboratory had to go to hospital to be treated preventatively for the bird flu. So it was clearly, because I've worked as a medical journalist with BMJ and Reuters Health and so on, I knew that this was a terribly significant event.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.